Shedeur Sanders entered the draft surrounded by media hype, highlight reels, and the backing of a football icon for a father. He was a name shouted by fans, featured on magazine covers, and hyped as one of the most marketable prospects in years. But when draft night finally came, the hype vanished. Pick after pick, his name wasn't called. First round, nothing. Second, third, fourth, still nothing. A quarterback projected by many to go in round one fell all the way to the fifth. No injury, no scandal, just silence. And nobody could explain it. Then it got weirder. When Tom Brady was asked about Shedeur's slide on national camera, someone who knows Shedeur personally, who mentors young QBs, and who's literally part owner of an NFL team, he froze. No endorsement, no defense, just an awkward pause and a flat response. I wasn't part of the evaluation process. That wasn't just strange, it was loud. Heading into draft season, Shedeur Sanders was a household name. Projected by analysts to be a late first to early second round pick, he had the stats, the spotlight, and one of the most iconic sports brands behind him, his father, Dion Sanders. Some even speculated Shedeur could be the first HBCU quarterback in decades to crack the top 32. But when the clock started ticking on draft night, he disappeared. One round passed, then two, then three. No mention, no picks, just awkward silences and shifting camera angles. By the time it hit round 5, even casual fans were asking, "What's going on?" This wasn't a medical red flag situation. There were no off-field scandals, no leaked drama, just the reality that 32 NFL teams saw something or didn't see something and collectively hit pause. And that's when the word collusion started getting thrown around. Because you don't usually see something like this happen to a quarterback with Shedeur's profile. The slide wasn't just a surprise, it was historic. A quarterback routinely ranked inside the top 3 on pre-draft boards, completely iced out by every franchise. Not once, not twice, but 4 different times. Analysts began to ask uncomfortable questions. Did NFL owners want to send a message to Dion? You don't run this league. Was Shedeur being silently punished not for anything he'd done, but for the perception of privilege, power, and politics orbiting his father? Some compared it to the Colin Kaepernick freeze-out. Others simply called it the price of challenging the old system in a league that protects its hierarchy. But no matter how you interpret it, one thing is clear. This wasn't a regular draft slide. It felt strategic and possibly personal. Tom Brady isn't just another NFL legend. He's the gold standard. 7 Super Bowls, unmatched respect, a voice that carries weight in every front office across the league. So when he was asked about Shedeur Sanders' draft slide, you'd expect something, a nod of support, a word of encouragement, maybe even a little outrage. After all, Brady knows exactly what it's like to be doubted. He was picked 199th overall, but his response? Crickets. On impulsive. Brady was asked point-blank about Shedeur's shocking draft night fall, and instead of backing his guy, the player he has a personal connection with, he froze, hesitated, shifted, then finally muttered one of the safest lines possible. "I wasn't a part of the evaluation process." Wait, what? This isn't someone on the outside guessing at QB talent. Brady is a part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, a team with quarterback needs. He's publicly praised Sanders' work ethic before. He even texted him during the draft. And yet, when it came time to vouch for Shedeur, he distanced himself like the plague. Then came the follow-up. Instead of calling the league out or questioning the fall, Brady doubled down with a tough love classic. Use it as motivation. Day 2 matters more than day 1. Nothing's handed to you. To some, it sounded like inspiration. To others, a warning. Because that wasn't Brady defending Shedeur, that was Brady telling him to wake up. And NFL execs hear moments like this loud and clear. When even Tom Brady won't go all in publicly, It shifts the perception fast. That one moment, it silently said more than a full press conference ever could. And for Shedeur, it might have been the turning point that signaled the league was already checking out. When the Cleveland Browns finally selected Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, some fans took it as a win. Sure, the slide had been brutal, but maybe this was his shot to prove everyone wrong. A chip-on-your-shoulder comeback story in the making. Except, that comeback never got off the ground. Instead of competing for the backup spot, Shedeur was immediately placed at QB3, behind another rookie, Dillon Gabriel. That alone raised eyebrows. Gabriel wasn't hyped like Sanders. He wasn't projected as a day-1 starter on any draft board. But somehow, he was already ahead of Sanders on the depth chart from day 1. Then the Browns made it undeniable. They brought in Bailey Zappi, a backup from New England, to the practice squad. A move that sent a loud and unmistakable message. We're not building around Shedeur, and we're not waiting for him either. Coaches didn't even try to explain it. Reps were limited. Opportunities were minimal. And then came the final preseason game, the one where bubble players usually get one last chance to shine. 4th quarter, 2-minute drill, game situation football. Perfect moment for Shedeur to show some quarterback IQ? Nope. He was yanked for veteran Tyler Huntley. The Browns didn't just bench him quietly, they publicly pulled him from the biggest spotlight he had. To a lot of fans, it felt like confirmation. They weren't even trying to see what he could do. Not in practice, not in live reps, and definitely not under pressure. For someone whose college career was filled with lights, cameras, and highlight throws, Cleveland gave him the darkest corner of the room. That's not what happens when a team believes you're the future. That's what happens when they see you as a flyer, or worse, a favor. If there's one name in football louder than Shedeur Sanders, it's his father's. Dion Sanders has never been the quiet type, and in college, that worked brilliantly. While coaching Colorado, he turned his sons into headline machines. NIL deals, media spots, pregame suits, film crews. Dion's boys weren't just football players, they were walking brands. But in the NFL, that strategy can backfire fast. Right before the draft, Dion went on the Dan Patrick Show and said something that turned heads across the league. He openly admitted he wouldn't let Shedeur play for certain teams. Then he bragged about guiding his son to the right situation. Like the draft was a negotiation table and NFL teams had to earn his trust. That clip went viral for all the wrong reasons. NFL front offices are built on one thing: control. Coaches and GMs don't want to be told what to do, especially not by someone outside the system. And when Dion tried to play chess in public, insiders say teams took it personally. Suddenly, Shedeur wasn't just a prospect, he was baggage, media baggage, family baggage, a potential PR firestorm waiting to happen if expectations weren't met. Even veteran analysts like Skip Bayless pointed to that exact interview as the moment teams started backing off. Because no matter how skilled Shedeur looked on tape, the league had already drawn its line. We'll draft a quarterback, not a family brand. And it wasn't just about power. It was about accountability. Teams worried. If Shedeur struggled, would Dion go on TV and blame the franchise? Would he demand trades? Would he make headlines instead of Shedeur earning them? That's when the league stopped asking, how good is the kid? And started wondering, how much of this is really about him? The NFL is tough, but its fans, brutal. Shedeur Sanders has become one of the most polarizing rookie names in recent memory, not just because of how he plays, but because of everything surrounding him. The family image, the media attention, the uneven treatment, and of course, the blown-up expectations. And now, fans are split into two camps. On one side, you've got the supporters. They say Shedeur is being judged unfairly, thrown into a system that never gave him a real shot. They point to the lack of preseason reps, the QB3 placement, and being pulled mid-game as proof that he wasn't even allowed to fail on his own terms. But the other side, they're not buying it at all. One fan went viral for saying, "If you actually watched Colorado games, you'd know this was coming." The criticism? Shedeur holds the ball too long, always looking for the big play instead of making smart throws. He tries to play hero ball. In college, you can get away with it. In the NFL, that's how you end up with a sack, a turnover, or worse. Another fan dug deeper. He had Travis Hunter, the most electrifying two-way player in the country, and still couldn't dominate. That's not a first-round pick. Some didn't talk stats at all. They hit where it hurts. His name. If he wasn't a Sanders, one user wrote, he'd have been cut already. That's the sentiment creeping through comment sections, Reddit threads, and fan forums. That Shedeur's spot isn't about talent, but the image his father built, and maybe the pressure that image created. Because when you show up flashy, cameras on, and NIL rich, expectations aren't just higher, they're merciless. And once the fans turn, the league tends to follow. If Shedeur's draft slide was already confusing, his family didn't exactly help calm the waters. Because the same week Shedeur was trying to find his footing, his older brother Shiloh Sanders managed to set off another storm. Playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers during the preseason, Shiloh got himself ejected for punching an opposing player during the final roster dress rehearsal. The Bucs responded swiftly. They cut him on the spot. One reckless swing, and just like that, his NFL shot vanished overnight. The timing couldn't have been worse. NFL front offices were already questioning Shedeur's situation, whispering about Dion's heavy-handed involvement. And then, bang, the family name became headline drama once again. Instead of Shedeur the prospect, the league saw the bigger picture, the Sanders circus. Dion tried to soften the optics in his Colorado press conference afterward. He told reporters he was praying his son would get another chance somewhere else. It sounded empathetic, but the damage was done. The narrative hanging over the family became unavoidable. One son sliding down draft boards, the other literally fighting himself out of the league. For NFL decision-makers, it painted Dion less like a mastermind and more like a desperate dad trying to keep both boys afloat. And optics matter. These franchises don't just invest in athletes. They invest in stability, image, and discipline. Suddenly, Shedeur wasn't compared to other rookies. He was compared to his brother. Scouts wondered, did the same lapses in judgment, the same immaturity, lurk beneath the surface with him too? When your last name already puts a target on your back, incidents like Shiloh's only make the spotlight burn hotter. And the truth is, Shedeur was now walking into the league carrying not just his own baggage, but his brother's too. The harsh truth is this: the NFL doesn't care about the lights, the hype, or the cameras. In college, Shedeur thrived inside his father's ecosystem. At Colorado, he controlled the spotlight. NIL deals, viral clips, high-fashion entrances, non-stop media buzz. Every headline felt like proof he was a superstar in waiting. But the NFL is not college football. In the league, highlight reels don't outrank film study. Flash doesn't cover up flaws. And no matter how many followers you have, you start at the bottom of the depth chart with everything to prove. That's why execs look at Shedeur differently. To them, he wasn't just a young QB with raw talent. He was a brand in a helmet, a storyline bigger than the playbook. And that worried them. Why? Because control is everything in an NFL locker room. Coaches want quiet development. They want rookies to learn before they lead, to humble themselves before they shine. But with Shedeur, the fame came first. The ESPN features, the photo shoots, the NIL cars, the documentaries, those filled up his resume before gameplay ever could. And that created a disconnect. NFL insiders quietly questioned whether he was bringing too much celebrity energy to a league that demands conformity. They weren't just asking how he throws, they were asking if he'd buy into a system not built around him. It comes down to image. Teams know fans can get tired of hype if wins don't follow. They didn't want Shedeur turning into a distraction where every benching, every interception, and every depth chart move sparks social media firestorms. To the NFL, hype can sell jerseys, but if hype gets bigger than the locker room, that's the kind of gamble most franchises refuse to touch. Which is why Shedeur may be learning the hardest lesson of all. In the league, the cameras don't save you. The playbook does. The harsh truth is this: the NFL doesn't care about the lights, the hype, or the cameras. In college, Shedeur thrived inside his father's ecosystem. At Colorado, he controlled the spotlight. NIL deals, viral clips, high-fashion entrances, non-stop media buzz. Every headline felt like proof he was a superstar in waiting. But the NFL is not college football. In the league, highlight reels don't outrank film study. Flash doesn't cover up flaws. And no matter how many followers you have, you start at the bottom of the depth chart with everything to prove. That's why execs looked at Shedeur differently. To them, he wasn't just a young QB with raw talent. He was a brand in a helmet, a storyline bigger than the playbook. And that worried them. Why? Because control is everything in an NFL locker room. Coaches want quiet development. They want rookies to learn before they lead, to humble themselves before they shine. But with Shedeur, the fame came first. The ESPN features, the photo shoots, the NIL cars. The documentaries, those filled up his resume before gameplay ever could. And that created a disconnect. NFL insiders quietly questioned whether he was bringing too much celebrity energy to a league that demands conformity. They weren't just asking how he throws, they were asking if he'd buy into a system not built around him. It comes down to image. Teams know fans can get tired of hype if wins don't follow. They didn't want Shedeur turning into a distraction where every benching, every interception, and every depth chart move sparks social media firestorms. To the NFL, hype can sell jerseys. But if hype gets bigger than the locker room, that's the kind of gamble most franchises refuse to touch. Which is why Shedeur may be learning the hardest lesson of all. In the league, the cameras don't save you. The playbook does.